I will give you this yacht if you make it sail. Should I start?
I'll give you the yacht if you make it sail. The words echoed across the Harborview Marina like thunder before a storm. Charles Beaumont, billionaire real estate investor with salt and pepper hair slicked back like the ocean behind him, gestured dramatically toward the skeletal beauty rotting at the end of Dock 7. A $25 million super yacht called Aphrodite, stranded and silent for 3 long years. Isaiah Cole, 68, hadn't come to the marina for drama. He'd come to help a friend repair a small fishing boat, nothing more. But when his old bicycle chain snapped right in front of the valet entrance to Beaumont's private yacht club, fate, or perhaps something more deliberate, placed him directly in a rich man's crosshairs. "Look, everyone!" Beaumont's voice carried across the crowd of yacht owners, socialites, and Instagram influencers who'd gathered for the afternoon's champagne tasting. "This gentleman seems to know something about boats, doesn't he?" The sarcasm was thick enough to choke on, as Beaumont watched Isaiah kneel beside his broken bicycle, those weathered hands working the rusted chain with the patience of someone who understood that broken things often just needed the right touch. The Aphrodite loomed behind them, a monument to failure. Once the crown jewel of Beaumont's collection, the yacht had become nothing more than a waterfront cautionary tale. Seized stabilizer system, dead engines, electrical ghosts that had driven 5 marine engineers to quit in frustration. Even the Dutch shipyard that built her had declared her beyond salvation. 7 mechanics have already declared that yacht permanently disabled, Beaumont continued, now filming with his phone, no doubt planning to share his entertainment with his 2.3 million social media followers. The insurance company calls it a total loss, but I'm certain someone with your extensive experience can work a miracle, right? His crowd laughed on cue, the rehearsed amusement of people who'd never had to fix anything in their lives. Isaiah slowly stood, brushing dock dust from his faded overalls. His calm brown eyes moved from Beaumont to the yacht, and for just a moment, so brief that only someone truly watching would have caught it, something shifted in his expression. Not surprise. Recognition. "Sir," Isaiah said, his voice quiet and even, carrying none of the anger Beaumont was fishing for. "May I take a closer look at her?" The question landed like a stone in still water. Beaumont nearly doubled over with laughter. "Ha ha ha ha! Be my guest. Hell, you can climb inside if you want. Just don't drown in the bilge water." He turned to his audience, grinning. This is going to be comedy gold. As Isaiah walked toward the Aphrodite, completely unhurried, immune to the jeers and the camera phones now tracking his every move, something in his stride changed. His calloused fingers brushed the yacht's faded teak railing, and beneath the grime and neglect, they found familiar grooves, deliberate design choices, the fingerprints of intention. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. What Charles Beaumont and his champagne-drunk audience couldn't possibly know was that those weathered hands had done far more than repair fishing boats. "This is great," Beaumont was just a moment. "Welcome to Life in Stories, where every moment hides a lesson, and every story reveals a truth. Don't just watch, feel the journey. Subscribe, share, and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Your story might be the next one we tell. Let's sail through life's untold tales together." Those hands had built the very world these people sailed through. The Harborview Marina in Miami glittered like a jewelry box under the late afternoon sun. All chrome and teak, white hulls and champagne flutes, the kind of place where even the seagulls seemed to cost money. Yachts lined the docks like obedient soldiers, their names betraying the egos of their owners. Liquid assets, tax shelter, earned it, though most hadn't. This wasn't a marina. It was a trophy case with water. Charles Beaumont stood at the center of it all, holding court like a king among court jesters. At 53, he'd perfected the art of looking rich, salt and pepper hair swept back with product that probably cost more than most people's car payments. A linen shirt open just enough to show off a tan, maintained by professionals, and a Patek Philippe watch that caught the light with every animated gesture. He was hosting an intimate gathering of 24 influencers, investors, and socialites, the kind of people who described themselves as entrepreneurs, but whose primary skill was being photographed. The secret to wealth, Beaumont announced to a cluster of admirers clutching champagne, is knowing when something has value and when it's just trash. He gestured broadly toward the end of Dock 7, where a massive yacht sat in deliberate isolation, its once magnificent presence now a cautionary tale rendered in fiberglass and shame. The Aphrodite. Even from a distance, you could see she was dying. Her white hull had gone gray with neglect, her teak decks were cracked and weathered, and she sat slightly lower in the water than proper, a ship slowly surrendering to gravity and time. For 3 years, she'd been stuck there, unmovable, unfixable, a $25 million monument to failure that Beaumont kept around for the same reason hunters mount the heads of dead animals. 7 marine engineers couldn't save her, Beaumont continued, enjoying his own story. The shipyard in Rotterdam that built her literally sent me a letter saying, and I quote, "She is beyond our expertise." Can you imagine? The people who built her gave up. His audience laughed, right on cue. That's when Isaiah Cole's bicycle chain snapped. The sound was small, a metallic ping followed by the soft clatter of an old man trying to keep his balance. But it happened directly in front of the marina's valet entrance, where Beaumont's guests were arriving. Isaiah, 68 years old, with skin the color of aged mahogany and hands that told stories of manual labor, stumbled slightly as his rusted Schwinn came to an abrupt stop. He wasn't supposed to be there. He'd come to the marina's public dock, 300 yards north, to help his friend Marcus repair an outboard motor on a fishing boat. But the harbor master had redirected him through the private entrance due to construction, and now here he was. Faded denim overalls, a gray work shirt with someone else's name stitched on the pocket, boots held together with duct tape and hope. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong audience. "Oh, this is perfect," Beaumont murmured, his eyes lighting up the way predators do when they spot wounded prey. He strode forward, phone already out, recording. His guests followed like sharks, scenting blood in the water. "Excuse me, sir," Beaumont's voice carried across the dock with theatrical projection. "Looks like you're having some mechanical difficulties. You know anything about fixing things?" Isaiah looked up from his bicycle chain, meeting Beaumont's eyes with a calm that seemed to irritate the billionaire. "A little," Isaiah said quietly. "A little," Beaumont laughed, turning to his audience. "Did everyone hear that? This gentleman knows a little about fixing things." He moved closer, circling Isaiah like a lawyer approaching a witness. "Tell you what, my friend, I've got something that needs fixing too." He pointed toward the Aphrodite, and the crowd turned to look. "That yacht right there? $25 million when she was built. Now, not worth the cost of the diesel in her tanks. Every expert from here to Europe says she's permanently disabled. The stabilizer system's fried, the engines are seized, and the electrical system is so haunted, even the insurance company wrote her off as a total loss." More laughter. Someone whispered, "This is going on TikTok." Beaumont stepped closer to Isaiah, close enough that the old man could smell expensive cologne mixed with bourbon. "I'll tell you what. You make that yacht sail, actually move under her own power, out of this dock and into open water, and she's yours. Title, registration, everything. $25 million, free and clear." The crowd erupted. Camera phones appeared like fireflies, already recording, already composing captions about charitable billionaires and feel-good moments, completely missing the cruelty bleeding from every word. "What do you say?" Beaumont pressed, his smile wide and predatory. "Want to give it a shot? Or is that a little too much machine for someone with your expertise?" The silence that followed was thick with expectation. Everyone waited for the old man to decline, to shuffle away embarrassed, to give them their content and confirm their worldview that people like him belonged in their lane. Instead, Isaiah looked past Beaumont toward the Aphrodite. He studied her the way a doctor might study a patient, not with hope or ambition, but with diagnostic precision. The angle of her waterline, the discoloration pattern on her hull, the way her mooring lines hung. "May I go aboard?" Isaiah asked, his voice still quiet, still even. Beaumont blinked. He hadn't expected that. You want to actually try?" "May I go aboard?" Isaiah repeated. "Oh, this is amazing." Beaumont was grinning now, already imagining the views, the shares, the comments. "Yes, absolutely. Be my guest. Hell, you can take all the time you need. Sundown's in 3 hours. That should be plenty of time to work your magic, right?" The crowd parted as Isaiah walked past them, his worn boots making soft sounds on the expensive composite decking. He didn't rush, didn't perform, just moved with the unhurried confidence of someone who'd walked this particular path before, even if nobody else recognized it. When he reached the Aphrodite, Isaiah placed both hands on her starboard rail and stood there for a long moment, perfectly still. His calloused fingers traced patterns in the weathered teak, finding grooves and joints, reading the yacht like braille. Then, so quietly that only the people nearest to him heard it, Isaiah spoke. "She's not dead, just sleeping." Behind him, Beaumont was already live streaming, narrating the scene for his followers. Watch a miracle worker try to resurrect a dead yacht. This is going to be incredible. But he wasn't watching Isaiah's face. None of them were. If they had been, they might have seen the slight smile that crossed the old man's lips. They might have noticed the way his fingers found specific points on the railing with the precision of someone who'd touched them before. They might have wondered why a man who fixed fishing boats would step aboard a $25 million yacht like he was coming home. But they were too busy filming to actually see. The laughter followed Isaiah down into the belly of the Aphrodite like sunlight filtering through dark water, distant, distorted, belonging to a world he'd temporarily left behind. Below deck, the yacht was a different creature entirely. Where the exterior showed neglect, the interior revealed abandonment. The main salon smelled of mildew and old money gone sour, its cream leather couches spotted with mold, its marble countertops dulled by a film of maritime humidity. Crystal light fixtures hung like frozen tears, their bulbs long dead. Isaiah moved through the space with careful deliberation, his boots leaving prints in the dust. He wasn't looking at the luxury. He was reading the bones underneath. The engine room access was through the galley, down a narrow companionway that groaned under his weight. He descended into mechanical darkness, fumbling along the wall until his fingers found what they were searching for, the emergency light panel. He pressed it. Nothing. He pressed again, harder, and a single LED strip flickered to reluctant life, casting everything in pale blue. The engine room sprawled before him like a sleeping giant's heart chamber. Twin diesel engines dominated the space, each the size of a small car, their massive blocks still gleaming faintly beneath layers of condensation and time. Between them ran arteries of fuel lines, veins of hydraulic tubing, nervous systems of electrical conduits, all the intricate biology that transformed combustion into movement. Above, muffled by fiberglass and irony, Beaumont's voice carried down, "Ladies and gentlemen, our marine miracle worker has descended into the abyss. Let's see if he can raise the dead." More laughter. Someone started a betting pool. Isaiah heard none of it. He was listening to something else entirely. He placed his palm flat against the port engine block, cold, dead cold, not the living cold of sleeping metal. He moved to the fuel manifold, traced the lines with his fingertips, found the primary filter housing. When he opened it, his suspicions crystallized. The filter element was clean, surgically clean. Not the clean of proper maintenance, the clean of something that had never actually filtered fuel. Interesting, he murmured to the darkness. He moved deeper toward the stabilizer control panel. This was the yacht's central nervous system, the computer-controlled gyroscopic array that kept vessels this size from rolling in heavy seas. According to Beaumont's bragging, this system was completely fried, unfixable, a total loss. Isaiah opened the access panel. The circuit boards inside looked pristine. No burn marks, no blown capacitors, no evidence of electrical failure whatsoever. What he did find made him pause. A series of jumper wires, deliberately misconnected, routing power away from critical components, and beneath them, scratched into the metal housing with something sharp, a single word in Italian. Silenzio. Silence. That's not right, Isaiah said softly, pulling out his reading glasses, held together at one temple with electrical tape, and leaning closer. The jumper wires weren't amateur work. This was precise, intentional sabotage disguised as system failure. Sir? Are you okay down here? Isaiah turned to find a young man descending the companionway. Mid-20s, polo shirt with Beaumont Marine Holdings embroidered on the chest. Expression caught between curiosity and concern. This was Liam, one of Beaumont's assistant engineers, sent down ostensibly to make sure the old guy doesn't hurt himself. I'm fine, son, Isaiah said. Just getting acquainted. Liam glanced around the engine room, then back at Isaiah with the cautious respect of someone who recognized competence when he saw it. You actually know what you're looking at, don't you? Some of it. Some of it. Liam smiled slightly. Sir, you've been down here 8 minutes and you went straight to the stabilizer panel, the fuel manifold, and the primary electrical junction. Those are the exact 3 systems we've been trying to diagnose for 2 years. Isaiah said nothing, just returned to examining the wiring. Liam moved closer, lowering his voice. Can I ask, where did you learn marine engineering? Different places, different lifetimes. Isaiah's fingers traced a hydraulic line toward the stern thruster assembly. Spent some years in Southampton, England. Worked for a shipbuilding firm there. Doing what? Whatever they needed. The lie came easily, worn smooth by decades of repetition. Not because Isaiah was ashamed, but because the truth had stopped mattering years ago. The patents that bore other men's names. The design innovations credited to engineers who'd never held a wrench. The quiet, systematic erasure of a black man's contributions to an industry that preferred its genius white and its labor invisible. Southampton builds some of the most advanced vessels in the world, Liam said, watching Isaiah work. My professor at Maritime Academy always said if you wanted to understand luxury yacht systems, you studied the Southampton designs. Your professor was right. Isaiah found what he was looking for, a pressure valve on the hydraulic system, its serial number filed off and replaced with a stamped replacement that didn't match the manufacturer's specs. The engineers there understood something most people forget. What's that? That machines have souls. Isaiah straightened, his knees protesting. Not literally, of course, but every vessel, every engine, every system, they're built with intention, with purpose. You treat them with respect, maintain them properly, listen to what they're telling you, they'll serve you faithfully for decades, but you abuse them, neglect them, lie to them about what they are. He tapped the fraudulent serial number. They know. They remember. Liam stared at the valve. That's a replacement part. It's a counterfeit part, Isaiah corrected gently. And not a very good one. How can you tell? The threading's wrong. The alloy composition's off. See how it's already showing surface corrosion? A genuine Bertram valve would still be bright after 3 years in a sealed engine room. And the serial number's stamped, not laser-etched. This is cheap Chinese knockoff. Probably cost $50 instead of $500. But why would anyone install counterfeit parts on a $25 million yacht? Isaiah looked at the young man with something like sadness. Why would someone install pristine fuel filters that have never filtered fuel? Why would someone deliberately miswire a stabilizer system and then declare it unfixable? Why would someone mark their sabotage with the Italian word for silence? Understanding dawned slowly across Liam's face, followed immediately by fear. You're saying this was intentional. I'm saying... Isaiah moved to the main electrical panel, pointing to a series of breakers that had been carefully, systematically disabled, that this yacht didn't fail. She was never given a chance to succeed. Someone very skilled, very deliberate, went through her systems and silenced them. One by one, made it look like cascading failure when really it was coordinated murder. That's insurance fraud. That's insurance fraud, Isaiah confirmed. On a scale that requires access, expertise, and motivation. 3 things that narrow down the suspect pool considerably. Liam swallowed hard. Mr. Beaumont would never... I'm not accusing anyone, son. I'm just telling you what the yacht is telling me. Isaiah closed the electrical panel gently, like tucking in a sleeping child. Machines don't lie. They can't. They only do what they're designed to do, or what someone makes them do. Above them, Beaumont's voice boomed down. How's it going, miracle worker? Need a manual? Maybe a YouTube tutorial? Fresh laughter. Someone shouted, He's probably lost down there. Liam looked toward the companionway, then back at Isaiah. What are you going to do? Isaiah was quiet for a long moment, his calloused hand resting on the cold engine block like a doctor checking for a pulse. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried the weight of certainty. This yacht isn't broken, son. She's been silenced on purpose. But silence, he smiled faintly in the blue LED light, is just another kind of sound. And if you know how to listen, it tells you everything you need to know about who's afraid of what she might say. Isaiah's old phone, a Samsung with a cracked screen held together by a transparent case that had yellowed with age, cast a pale glow across the engine room as he photographed the miswired stabilizer panel. The shutter sound was artificial, too loud in the mechanical silence, each click a small act of testimony. Sir, what are you doing? Liam asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. Documenting. Isaiah moved to the counterfeit hydraulic valve, angling the phone to capture the filed-off serial number and the corrosion already eating at the cheap alloy. My eyes aren't what they used to be. Memory neither. Best to keep a record. A record for what? Isaiah didn't answer. He was crouched beside the fuel system now, photographing the pristine filters, the disconnected sensor leads, the routing manifold that had been deliberately configured to bypass the primary pumps. His movements were methodical, almost ritual, the careful choreography of someone building a case rather than diagnosing a problem. Liam watched in growing discomfort. Those photos... If you're suggesting what I think you're suggesting, you need to understand. Mr. Beaumont is extremely powerful. He has lawyers, serious lawyers. I'm sure he does. Isaiah found another counterfeit part, this one on the cooling system. A thermostat housing stamped with a logo that was almost but not quite Caterpillar's trademark design. He photographed it from 3 angles. Powerful men usually do. I'm serious. He could destroy you. One phone call and you'd never work in this city again. Isaiah looked up from his phone, his brown eyes gentle but unflinching. Son, I'm 68 years old. I fix outboard motors and patch fiberglass on fishing boats that smell like bait and broken dreams. What exactly do I have that a billionaire could take? The question hung in the stale air between them. Your reputation, Liam tried. Your livelihood. My reputation, Isaiah repeated softly, almost smiling. Among whom? The men I play dominoes with at the community center? The single mothers who bring me their dead lawnmowers because I don't charge much? That's not reputation, son. That's just life. And life, real life, doesn't care what powerful men think of it. He returned to photographing, moving now to the electrical panel where the deliberately disabled breakers told their silent story of systematic sabotage. Liam shifted his weight, clearly wrestling with something. I've worked for Mr. Beaumont for 2 years. I have student loans. I have a daughter. I can't just... I'm not asking you to do anything, Isaiah interrupted gently. I'm just an old man taking pictures of a broken yacht. You're just an assistant engineer doing your job, making sure I don't hurt myself down here. That's all this is. But they both knew it wasn't. Above deck, Beaumont's voice carried down with renewed energy. It's been 30 minutes, folks. Our maritime messiah is still down there, probably praying to the boat gods. Should we send down a search party? The laughter had taken on a harder edge now, performance giving way to genuine mockery. Someone started a countdown. Someone else made a joke about Social Security and dementia. The live stream chat, visible on a dozen phones, filled with crying, laughing emojis and comments that would never pass moderation. Isaiah heard it all. He'd heard versions of it his entire life. In the drafting rooms of Southampton when he'd presented innovations that white engineers later claimed as their own, in the patent offices where his name mysteriously disappeared from applications, in the boardrooms where corporate restructuring meant erasing his contributions from company history. The laughter was old, the humiliation was tired, but the truth was always new. Mr. Johnson, Liam said quietly, using the surname he'd glimpsed on Isaiah's work shirt, not knowing it wasn't his. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why are you really doing this? It's not about the yacht. You knew it wasn't broken the moment you touched it. So why play along with his game? Isaiah was silent for a long moment, his phone light illuminating dust motes that drifted through the engine room like microscopic witnesses. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that made Liam unconsciously straighten. Because men like Beaumont believe the world exists in 2 categories, people who matter and people who serve. And they need the second category to stay quiet, stay grateful, stay invisible. They need us to accept our place. He looked at Liam directly. But every so often, the universe puts a man exactly where he needs to be, to remind the world that the hands they dismiss are the same hands that built everything they stand on. That sounds like revenge. No, son. Revenge is personal. This is structural. Isaiah closed his phone, the engine room returning to blue LED twilight. The sea remembers the hands that shaped her, and the hands that betrayed her. All I'm doing is helping her speak. Liam opened his mouth, closed it, then finally managed. You built boats, didn't you? Real boats, not fishing boats, vessels like this. Isaiah's smile was sad and knowing. In another life, maybe. Why didn't you say something? When Beaumont was mocking you, why didn't you tell him who you really are? Because men like him don't hear words from men like me. They only hear consequences. Isaiah moved toward the companionway, his documentation complete. Besides, who I was doesn't matter, only what I can prove. And right now, I can prove that this yacht is the victim of fraud so meticulous it borders on craftsmanship. Almost makes you admire the precision of it. What are you going to do with those photos? Isaiah paused on the first step, one hand on the railing. I'm going to make one phone call to someone who'll actually listen. After that, He glanced back at the engines, the sabotaged systems, the expensive corpse of a yacht that had been murdered for insurance money. After that, we'll see if the truth still floats. He climbed toward the light. Liam stood alone in the engine room, surrounded by evidence of corruption, his own complicity suddenly visible in the blue glow. Above, Beaumont was performing for his audience, confident in his immunity, secure in his power. Neither of them had any idea what was about to surface. On deck, the sun had dropped lower, painting the marina in shades of gold and judgment. The crowd had grown, word had spread through the yacht club about the entertainment, and now 30-some people clustered around Dock 7 with drinks and phones, a Roman Colosseum reimagined for the Instagram age. Beaumont stood at the center, holding court, his live stream view count climbing past 15,000. And here he comes. The prophet returns from the depths. Tell us, wise man, can you resurrect my dead yacht, or should we call you an Uber? The crowd erupted. Someone shouted, "He probably can't even afford an Uber." Isaiah emerged into the golden light, blinking, his overalls smudged with engine grease, his boots leaving dark prints on the white deck. He looked at Beaumont with an expression that was neither angry nor afraid, just patient, the way a teacher looks at a student who hasn't yet learned the lesson but inevitably will. "Mr. Beaumont," Isaiah said calmly, "I need to make one phone call." "May I use the dock Wi-Fi? My data plan is limited." The request was so absurd, so perfectly humble, that Beaumont actually laughed with genuine delight. "A phone call! You need to phone a friend? Is this Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?" He gestured expansively. "Sure, sure. Use the Wi-Fi. Hell, use my hotspot. Call whoever you want. Call the Coast Guard. Call the Pope. This is amazing content." Isaiah pulled out his cracked phone, his weathered fingers moving slowly across the screen. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I appreciate it." And as the sun continued its descent and the crowd continued filming and Beaumont continued performing, Isaiah Cole scrolled through his contacts to a name he hadn't called in 3 years. Admiral Lucia Ortega, Director, International Maritime Safety Commission, and the woman who still owed him a favor. The phone rang 3 times before a crisp, professional voice answered. "Admiral Ortega's office." "This is Isaiah Cole," he said quietly, his phone on speaker because his hands were too unsteady to hold it properly. "I need to speak with the Admiral." "It's urgent." A pause, then with unmistakable warmth. "Isaiah? Is that really you?" The voice that came through the speaker next wasn't an assistant's, it was hers. "Isaiah Cole, my God, we've been trying to reach you for 6 months." The crowd's laughter died like a candle snuffed out. Beaumont's smile flickered. "Who the hell are you calling?" Isaiah didn't look at him. He kept his eyes on the phone, on the voice that was suddenly filling the marina with the authority that money couldn't buy. "Admiral Ortega," Isaiah said, his voice steady now, anchored by something deeper than confidence, certainty. "I'm standing aboard a yacht called Aphrodite. Registration number HV2547M, currently docked at Harborview Marina in Miami. I'm calling to report evidence of maritime fraud, deliberate sabotage, and insurance claim falsification." Silence. Complete silence. 30-some people holding their phones, streaming to thousands, all frozen. "Isaiah, are you in danger?" Ortega's voice shifted to tactical. "Do you need me to contact local authorities?" "No, ma'am, I'm safe. But this vessel needs your attention. She's been declared a total loss by her owner's insurance carrier, but the damages are deliberate, not accidental. I've documented sabotaged systems, counterfeit replacement parts, and serial numbers that trace back to shell companies." Beaumont's face had gone from tan to pale. "This is insane. He's just some random—" "Admiral," Isaiah continued, speaking over the interruption with the calm of someone who'd commanded attention in far more hostile rooms. The owner is present and live streaming this conversation. I'm going to send you the photographic evidence via encrypted email. The vessel's systems can be restored to function within the hour. Wait. Beaumont stepped forward, his performance finally cracking. Who the hell do you think you are? You can't just... Isaiah, Admiral Ortega said, her voice cutting through Beaumont's panic like a blade through water. Can you confirm your commission number? Naval Architecture Corps, Service Number 2847-NAVO-Cole, retired October 2009. And your last posting? Chief Maritime Engineer, Naval Research Vessel Constellation, Southampton Design Bureau, Joint US-UK Classified Propulsion Project. The words landed like depth charges. Liam, still standing near the companionway, physically stepped back. Several people in the crowd lowered their phones. One woman whispered, "Oh my God." Admiral Ortega's voice carried the weight of institutional power. For those listening who may not understand, Isaiah Cole designed the stabilizer systems currently used in 70% of the U.S. Navy's surface fleet. He holds 14 patents in maritime hydraulic engineering, 6 in emergency propulsion systems, and his work on gyroscopic stabilization is still classified at Level 3. If he tells me a yacht has been sabotaged, I believe him without question. Beaumont looked like he'd been struck. That's impossible. He's just a what, Mr. Beaumont? Ortega's voice could have frozen seawater. Please finish that sentence. Beaumont's mouth worked soundlessly. Isaiah finally looked at him, and for the first time, there was something other than patience in his eyes. Not anger, something colder. Disappointment. I'm sending you the documentation now, Admiral, Isaiah said. The counterfeit parts bear serial numbers registered to a supplier called Triton Maritime Services. That's a shell company. The registered agent is Beaumont Marine Holdings. You're lying, Beaumont's voice cracked. You can't prove that. Isaiah held up his phone, showing a photograph of a valve housing, the fraudulent serial number clearly visible. Part number TMS 4782HV, registered March 2021, claimed value on insurance documentation $4,000, actual part, cost from Chinese manufacturer, $47. I have 12 more just like it. The crowd had transformed from audience to jury. Phones that had been recording for entertainment were now recording for evidence. The live stream chat had gone from mockery to chaos. People screaming for screen recordings, tagging news outlets, demanding answers. Admiral, Isaiah continued, I'm going to restore this vessel to operational status. With your permission, I'd like to document the process for your investigation. Permission granted. I'm dispatching Coast Guard Investigative Services to your location now. ETA 40 minutes. Isaiah, her voice softened slightly. It's good to hear from you, even under these circumstances. Good to hear your voice too, ma'am. He ended the call. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the seagulls seemed to be waiting. Beaumont found his voice, though it had lost all its polish. You can't do this. I have lawyers. You have problems, Isaiah said quietly. He turned to Liam. Son, I'm going to need your help, if you're willing. Liam looked at Beaumont, then at Isaiah. The decision took less than a second. Tell me what to do. What happened next would be replayed millions of times across every platform, dissected and analyzed and transformed into a symbol of something larger than itself. Isaiah and Liam descended back into the engine room. This time, Isaiah didn't document. He repaired. His hands moved with the fluid precision of muscle memory, reconnecting the deliberately severed systems, bypassing the counterfeit parts, rerouting power through backup circuits that the saboteur hadn't known existed. The stabilizer jumpers, he told Liam. Remove them, and reconnect to the original terminals. Blue to blue, yellow to yellow. The person who did this was good, but they weren't Navy trained. They didn't know about the redundancy systems. Above deck, the crowd watched Beaumont unraveling. Someone asked him a question about the shell company. He didn't answer. Someone else asked about insurance fraud. He walked away from his own live stream, leaving it running, his empire dismantling itself in real time. 38 minutes after the phone call, Isaiah emerged from the engine room for the final time. His overalls were black with grease, his hands were scraped and bleeding from sharp metal edges, but his eyes were clear. He walked to the helm, that sacred space where intention becomes motion. The crowd pressed closer. The live stream had reached 40,000 viewers. Isaiah's hand rested on the throttle. He looked back once at the people filming, at Beaumont standing frozen at the edge of the dock, at the golden light of late afternoon, painting everything in shades of judgment and grace. "The thing about machines," Isaiah said, loud enough for the microphones to catch, "is that they don't lie. They don't forget. They only do what they're designed to do unless someone forces them to do otherwise. But force isn't the same as breaking, and silence isn't the same as death." He turned the key. The engines coughed once, ancient lungs remembering how to breathe. Then they roared. Not the labored grinding of failure, but the deep, powerful thunder of diesel engines doing exactly what they were born to do. The Aphrodite trembled beneath their feet. 3 years of forced sleep shaking free, systems coming online in perfect sequence, fuel pumps, hydraulics, stabilizers, all synchronized like an orchestra remembering its symphony. Isaiah advanced the throttle. The yacht glided forward, smoothly, powerfully, inevitably. She moved through the marina like a queen reclaiming her throne, her bow cutting water that reflected the dying sun, her engines singing a hymn of resurrection and revenge. The crowd erupted, not with mockery this time, with something primal and inarguable. Justice witnessed, the impossible made real, the underestimated revealing themselves as architects of the very world that had dismissed them. Isaiah guided the Aphrodite in a slow circle, her stabilizers keeping her level, her systems purring, every mechanical component testifying to the truth of his expertise and the depth of Beaumont's fraud. When he brought her back to the dock, the cheering was deafening. He shut down the engines. The sudden silence felt holy. Isaiah stepped off the helm and walked to where Beaumont stood, surrounded by phones, by witnesses, by the crumbling remains of his carefully constructed image. "Mr. Beaumont," Isaiah said quietly, "you told me if I made her sail, she'd be mine." Beaumont said nothing. Couldn't. "I don't want her," Isaiah continued. "But I do want you to remember something. The people you step on to make yourself feel tall? Some of us built the ground you're standing on, and when you finally fall—" He looked at the Aphrodite, magnificent and alive. "The sea remembers everything you tried to bury." Behind him, sirens approached. Coast Guard, news vans, the machinery of accountability grinding into motion. Isaiah walked past Beaumont without another word, picked up his broken bicycle, and began wheeling it toward the parking lot. Someone in the crowd shouted, "You're just leaving?" He paused, looked back with a gentle smile. "My friend Marcus is still waiting for me to fix his outboard motor. That's the work I came here to do." And he walked away from $25 million like it was nothing at all. The video hit 1 million views in 6 hours. By morning, it had crossed 20 million. Not because of algorithms or paid promotion, but because people, real people, tired people, people who'd been underestimated and overlooked and told to know their place, saw something in Isaiah Cole's quiet dignity that felt like oxygen after a lifetime of holding their breath. The headlines wrote themselves. "Billionaire's humiliation backfires spectacularly. Navy engineer exposes $47 million fraud while being mocked. The man who made the yacht sail and walked away. But Isaiah didn't read them. He was in Marcus's garage, elbow deep in a stubborn outboard motor, doing exactly what he'd said he would do. "You know you're famous, right?" Marcus said, holding up his phone where the video played for probably the 100th time. "My daughter sent me this. She didn't even know it was you until I told her." Isaiah grunted, tightening a fuel line. "Famous for fixing a boat. Imagine that. Famous for making a billionaire look like a fool." "No," Isaiah said quietly. "He did that himself. I just made a yacht sale." The Coast Guard investigation took 3 weeks to dismantle what Charles Beaumont had spent 5 years building. The Aphrodite was just the beginning. Investigators found 4 other vessels in Beaumont's portfolio: yachts, a commercial fishing vessel, even a vintage sailboat, all declared total losses, all carrying the same fingerprints of meticulous sabotage, counterfeit parts, disabled systems, insurance claims filed with fraudulent damage assessments. Triton Maritime Services, the shell company that supplied the fake components, dissolved the moment subpoenas arrived. But financial forensics traced the money back through 3 layers of corporate veils to a single source: Beaumont Marine Holdings. The math was staggering. $47 million in fraudulent insurance claims over 5 years. Beaumont had turned maritime sabotage into a profit center, destroying vessels he owned, collecting massive payouts, then quietly selling the unsalvageable hulls to overseas buyers who restored them for pennies on the dollar and resold them under new registrations. It was elegant. It was systematic. It was completely illegal. The billionaire investor who'd built an empire on waterfront real estate and luxury yacht sales was arrested at his Coral Gables estate on 17 counts of insurance fraud, maritime sabotage, and conspiracy. The news helicopters captured him in handcuffs, his slicked-back hair disheveled, his linen shirt wrinkled, looking nothing like the man who'd laughed into a phone camera 4 weeks earlier. His company collapsed within days. Investors fled. Properties went into foreclosure. The marina, where he'd hosted champagne tastings and humiliated strangers, was seized by creditors and auctioned to a maritime nonprofit for a fraction of its value. Everything he'd built sank like a ship with a hole in its hull. 6 weeks after the viral video, Isaiah received a formal letter on International Maritime Safety Commission letterhead. "Mr. Isaiah Cole, on behalf of the Commission and the United States Navy, it is our honor to formally recognize your distinguished service to maritime safety and your instrumental role in uncovering systematic fraud that threatened the integrity of vessel certification processes worldwide. Your expertise, dedication, and moral courage represent the highest ideals of the maritime engineering profession. We would be grateful if you would accept our invitation to be honored at the annual Maritime Safety Conference in Norfolk, Virginia. Additionally, we wish to discuss consulting opportunities related to fraud detection training for Coast Guard investigators. With deep respect and gratitude, Admiral Lucia Ortega." Director Isaiah read it twice, then folded it carefully and placed it in his workbench drawer, next to his reading glasses and a photo of his late wife. Marcus found him there an hour later, staring at nothing. "You okay?" "They want to give me an award," Isaiah said softly. "You deserve 12 awards." "I just fixed a boat, Marcus." "You exposed a criminal. You proved the system still works sometimes. You gave millions of people hope that the underdog can still win." Marcus sat down beside him. "That's worth celebrating." Isaiah was quiet for a long moment. Then, "You know what I really want?" "What's that?" "I want to teach someone what I know before it's gone." The Harborview Community Maritime Academy opened 4 months later in the same marina where Isaiah had been humiliated. The nonprofit that purchased the property offered him space rent-free, a workshop, a classroom, and dock access for practical training. Isaiah used the consulting fee from the Maritime Commission to buy tools, welding equipment, and 3 small vessels in various states of disrepair. The mission was simple: teach disadvantaged young people, especially young people of color, the skills that the maritime industry had tried to keep exclusive. Navigation, engineering, fabrication, hull design, the same knowledge that Isaiah had been forced to share through other men's names, now given freely to anyone willing to learn. Liam was the first to join, quitting his position at what remained of Beaumont Marine Holdings to become Isaiah's full-time assistant instructor. Within weeks, they had 12 students. Within months, 30. Kids from Liberty City and Overtown, from broken homes and broken schools, finding purpose in the language of hydraulics and the poetry of propulsion. Isaiah taught them more than mechanics. He taught them the philosophy that had sustained him through decades of erasure. "A vessel," he told them during their first session, his calloused hands tracing the lines of a hull diagram, "is a promise. A promise that if you build something with integrity, with precision, with respect for the physics and the sea, it will carry you. It will hold you. It will bring you home. But if you cut corners, if you lie about what you've built, if you prioritize profit over principle, the ocean will know, and she will collect what you owe her." The students listened with the intensity of people who'd been lied to their entire lives and were starving for truth. One of them, a 17-year-old named Jasmine who'd been expelled from 2 schools, asked, "Mr. Cole, why did you help Mr. Beaumont's yacht?" "After he humiliated you?" Isaiah smiled. "I didn't help his yacht. I helped the yacht. She didn't deserve what was done to her, and neither did the people he defrauded. Justice isn't about revenge. It's about restoration, making things right even when the people who broke them never will." The Aphrodite, seized by authorities and eventually cleared through legal proceedings, was donated to the academy at Isaiah's request. She became the school's flagship, literally and symbolically. The same vessel that had been murdered for profit was now crewed by students who would have never been allowed aboard when Beaumont owned her. They learned navigation on her bridge, practiced engineering in her restored engine room, and sailed her through Biscayne Bay with the kind of reverence that only comes from understanding what resurrection costs. On a warm Saturday, 8 months after the viral video, Isaiah stood on the dock, watching the Aphrodite return from a training voyage. Jasmine was at the helm, Liam beside her offering quiet guidance, 6 other students managing lines and systems with growing confidence. The yacht glided into her slip with a grace that made Isaiah's chest tight. As the students secured her and began post-voyage checks, a postal worker approached with a certified letter. The return address was Federal Correctional Institution, Miami. Isaiah opened it slowly. "Mr. Cole, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I think about what happened every day. I see it clearly now. The way I treated you, the way I treated everyone who didn't serve my ego. I built an empire on fraud and called it success. I surrounded myself with people who feared me and called it respect. I had everything and understood nothing. You showed me that a man's worth isn't measured in yachts or bank accounts, but in the truth he can stand on when everything else is stripped away. I had no truth, just expensive lies. I'm asking for something I don't deserve. Forgiveness. Not absolution. Just the knowledge that you don't carry hatred for me, because I carry enough for both of us. The yacht I destroyed is sailing again. My company is gone. My reputation is ash. But maybe, there's still time for me to learn what you tried to teach me that day. That integrity is the only thing that doesn't sink. Charles Beaumont. Inmate. Number 84,729-104. Isaiah read it twice, then walked to his workshop. He sat at his desk, pulled out a piece of paper, and wrote carefully, "Mr. Beaumont, redemption is another kind of voyage. Some storms we must sail through alone. But every sailor knows that the darkest water comes before dawn, and the roughest seas teach the most important lessons. You're learning them now. That's not punishment. That's navigation. I don't carry hatred for you. I never did. Hatred is ballast. It only slows you down. What I carry is hope that you'll find your horizon. It may take years. It may take the rest of your life. But it's there if you're willing to sail toward it. The yacht you tried to destroy is teaching young people to build instead of break, to restore instead of exploit. In a way, your cruelty created something beautiful, not because of you, in spite of you, but it exists nonetheless. That's what the sea does. It takes our worst failures and turns them into lessons for those who come after. Fair winds. Isaiah Cole. 3 years later, the Academy had trained over 200 students. 15 had received full scholarships to maritime academies. 8 were working for the Coast Guard. 12 had started their own boat repair businesses. And Jasmine, the girl who'd been expelled twice, had just been accepted to the Naval Academy with a recommendation letter from Admiral Ortega herself. On a Sunday morning, Isaiah stood on the same dock where he'd once been humiliated, watching the Aphrodite sail toward the horizon. His students were aboard, practicing offshore navigation, their voices carrying across the water in a mixture of concentration and joy. Liam stood beside him, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You know what Marcus told me yesterday?" Liam said. "What's that?" "He said you changed the whole culture of this marina, that people who used to mock the working-class sailors now bring their kids here to learn, that billionaires who used to demand and degrade now ask politely and say thank you." Isaiah sipped his coffee. "The tide changes everyone eventually. Some just take longer to notice." They watched in comfortable silence as the yacht became smaller, heading toward open water where the real lessons lived. "Mr. Cole," Liam said quietly, "thank you for everything you've taught me." Isaiah smiled, his weathered face creasing in a way that spoke of decades weathered and wisdom earned. "Son, all I did was make a yacht sail. You did the rest yourself." The wind shifted, carrying the scent of salt and possibility. Isaiah spoke one final time, his words to the sea and the students and the future. "Integrity always floats. Arrogance always sinks. And the ocean." He gestured toward the horizon where his students sailed. "The ocean always remembers who deserves to stay afloat." Behind them, the marina hummed with life, welding sparks and laughter, teaching and learning, the sound of broken things being made whole. The yacht disappeared into the golden distance, and Isaiah Cole, the man who'd built the world that tried to forget him, finally rested.
Thank you for watching Life in Stories, where dignity, courage, and redemption always find their voice. If this story moved you, click subscribe, turn on the bell, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Drop a comment below. We'd love to know where you're watching from and what inspired you most.